So Nintendo just released a brand new trailer for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and it shows off some never before seen elements, most of which is focused around the new battle mode. But there are a couple of other interesting things in there as well. And you know what that means, it's time for the all-analysis machine to take a crack at it. But since a lot of the trailer is old information, we're only going to be focusing on the entirely new stuff here, including the 4 never before seen battle tracks. So let's get right to it. Alright, so first up is the fact that we have another brand new character in the form of Gold Mario, which Nintendo said via press release you'll unlock for finishing the 200cc mode. So that's cool, I guess. But there's something even cooler. Because as the trailer is showing off the 200cc mode, we can see Waluigi's drifting sparks changing from orange to purple. And that's a pretty big deal, as we've never seen a purple drift before. So does this mean they've added a third tier drift beyond the usual blue and orange sparks? Perhaps rewarding those who hold a drift for even longer? And if so, is it perhaps exclusive to the 200cc mode, as that's the only mode we see it in? In either case, how fitting is it that Waluigi of all the characters is the one showing off a purple drift? Alright, so that covers it for the brand new features. So let's move on to the battle mode, of which the trailer finally reveals all 8 tracks and the 5 modes that they're playable in, including Balloon Battle, the Bomb Blast, Coin Runners, Shine Thief, and Renegade Roundup. Now, as it turns out, all of those actually return from past Mario Kart games, except for the last one, which is brand new, being Renegade Roundup. So let's take a closer look at how that one works exactly. Okay, so Renegade Roundup is basically Mario Kart's version of Cops and Robbers, with everyone being split up into 2 teams. You have the Robbers, or Renegades in this case, who are marked by blue flags on their cars, and then you have the Cops rounding them up, who in this case have piranha plants, which even includes a little police siren on top. Isn't that cute? So we're guessing that if the Cops manage to round up all the Renegades within the time limit, they win. Whereas if the Renegades manage to evade them long enough, they'll win instead. But there is a bit more to it than just that. Okay, so to capture a Renegade, all the Cops have to do is drive close enough to have their piranha plant buddy automatically gobble them up, which then traps them in Mario Kart Prison, being this little jail cell that hovers above the course. You can even see the propeller holding it up. And in this case, we can see that Bowser Jr. and Yoshi have already been caught. Now the only thing we're not sure about is when you catch a Renegade, are they transported to the jail cell immediately? Or does the cop have to drop them off first by driving nearby? Well, this scene may reveal the answer, but it can be a bit hard to see. Okay, so do you see DK right there? Well, a few frames later, Rosalina rolls in and scoops him up. But check this out. The flashing light on top of her piranha plant immediately goes out afterward, which might suggest that she's not able to pick up another Renegade until she drops the first one off at jail. So yeah, it may not be quite as easy as it looks. And then there's the fact that the Renegades can fight back, such as with items which stuns the piranha plants if they're hit, making them temporarily safe to drive past, but also the fact that the Renegades can break their friends out of jail, simply by driving over the blue key switch directly underneath that blows it open. Now, in another scene, we can see a second jail cell in a different portion of the level. So, are there multiple jail cells at once? Maybe, but we're thinking there's probably only one at a time, and that moves around each time you break it open. In either case, we can see that the platform that the blue key switch is on remains behind, suggesting that the jail cell can reappear here. So yeah, Renegade Roundup looks like it could be a pretty good time. Alright, and that covers it for the modes. So let's move on to the battle tracks, of which we now know there are 8 in total. Now half of them we've seen before, so we'll be focusing only on the 4 new ones here. And the first new battle arena is clearly based on the DLC track from Mario Kart 8 being Dragon Driftway. Except this time, we can see much of the action takes place in a square courtyard around 2 dragon statues, one being gold and the other silver, both of which are, of course, modeled after the same dragon from the main racetrack, which itself was based on Gobblegut from Super Mario Galaxy. Now, the inner portion of the courtyard appears to be sunken in a little bit, which should make driving through it a little bit more dynamic. Oh, and we can see a giant diagram of Lakitu's cloud in the middle too, which is fitting since artwork of Lakitu can be found in the actual racetrack as well, inside the temples. Beyond the courtyard, we can see a large entrance gate to one side. Although, if you look close, we can see that it's walled off, meaning you won't be driving through it. And the same goes for the 2 smaller temples on either side, behind each of the dragons. And we actually get a close-up look at the one behind the gold dragon as DK flies by. So close, in fact, that we can make out some artwork of Lakitu's cloud on the gold trim, as well as some hills, a bit reminiscent of those from the original Super Mario Bros. And just down below, we can see a row of Koopa Troopas that appear to be practicing martial arts right out in front. Neat! Now, although we don't get quite as good of a look at the temple on the opposite side, we're pretty sure it shares the exact same details. Okay, now while you might not be able to enter the smaller temples, the giant one opposite the gate is a different story. As we can see, it actually has 2 main entrances, one on either side, that are both completely unbarred. Well, mostly, but more on that in a second. And we actually get to see the inside of that temple in this scene. And that interior is not only big, but also circular, with a sunken interior all of its own, as we can see decay coming in from a slide ramp. Oh, and it even features the same Lakitu cloud emblem as outside too. And this temple isn't just a single floor, as we can see a ramp that leads up to a second one. Well, sort of, because there doesn't really seem to be a true second floor. Instead, it seems to be just the ramp, which we're guessing loops around to a second ramp leading back down to ground level, which we can't see off screen to the right. But in either case, those ramps do lead up to another entrance, or more accurately, an exit, which is located above and between the two main entranceways, which we get a better look at in the exterior shot here. So it seems you'll be able to drop into the courtyard for a surprise entrance from the temple. And by the way, it appears as if the doors at each entranceway may slide open and shut, seeing as we can see that the lower floor's left side is entirely closed here, whereas they're open in this scene from the outside. And then in the establishing shot, all three sets of doors are closed. So we're thinking these doors may open and close at random, dictating the flow into and out of the building, which also demands that you pay close attention. Finally, if we go back inside for a second, we can see some kind of platform above the ramp that has some item boxes all its own. But we have no idea how you get to it. Do you need to use a feather to jump to it from the ramp, maybe? Or is there some other way to get some airtime inside the temple? Or maybe it has something to do with the wall panel we can just barely see opening up over here. Like, is there a hallway that connects them or something? Anyway, let's move on to the next battle track, which seems to take place on Wuhu Island, given the fact that there's a Wuhu Island banner right there. Yeah, nothing gets past the old analysis machine. And given that's the case, that would mean that the clock tower centerpiece here is actually the broken clock tower, which was a landmark in Wuhu Island as seen in Wii Sports Resort. But this time, the clock tower is sitting in a large courtyard with a raised garden section in the middle that's sure to give you some airtime when driven over. And that garden is surrounded by a giant compass marking each cardinal direction, with the clock tower taking up residence at the southern side. Now, to either side of the clock tower are a couple of businesses that we've seen elsewhere in the game, including Tropical Bakery and Coconut Cafe. And it looks like you may even be able to see inside some of them, such as this shop on the lower floor of the clock tower, which is a neat touch. And of course, we can see that Piantas, Yoshis, and Toads will be watching from the sidelines. Now, in the establishing shot, we can see a ramp directly opposite the clock tower on the northern side. So, what's at the top of that ramp? Well, this next clip reveals exactly what's up there, as we can see the same clock tower dead ahead just below. And it's just a small elevated area with some trees and an additional ramp on each side. One there, and the other right there. This angle also gives us our only look at Wuhu Island's famous volcano in the distance. Yeah, it's pretty cool. At any rate, we get a better look at those ramps in this scene from the east side of the courtyard. See, there's a clock tower again for reference. And we can also make out a couple of other Wuhu Island landmarks from this angle, including the lighthouse way off in the distance, as well as a bowling alley on the west side, complete with a billboard that says Strike. And from the establishing shot, we can see that you'll be able to follow the western roadway right past it, which appears to loop around and exits right behind the clock tower here. And from this angle, we can see the street continues behind the clock tower, presumably to an identical road on the opposite side that loops around to the one here, just east of the clock tower. But what's beyond the street behind the clock tower? Well, it seems to be a harbor based on this scene, where we can see a cruise ship in the background, which we get a close-up look at in this clip, which includes a banner for Fountain Cafe. A top-down view of the same location also reveals that this section is pretty narrow compared to the courtyard, as an inner fence bounds into the roadway as it wraps around to the other side. And that's it for Wuhu Island, so next up is a rather sweet-looking course, being based on Sweet Sweet Canyon from Mario Kart 8. But unfortunately, this is a track we actually see the least of. But you know that's not going to stop us. So from the get-go, we can see a castle that looks strangely like Peach's castle, only this one's made of sugary treats, and features a logo of Peach and Daisy's royal patisserie. But that castle's not just for show, as there's a raised ramp that leads around the back, as well as a second path behind and below it. And we get a better look at both of them in this scene, with the lower one even featuring donuts you drive through. Now both paths not only lead to the opposite side of the castle, but also right through the castle if you want, as that entranceway is actually made up of 2 floors, with the lower one of course leading to the ground level path, whereas the second floor is connected to the ramp, which we can even see carts flying off of in this scene. Now just in front and to the right of the castle is a gingerbread house on a delicious looking island, and the entire thing acts as an obstacle that you'll have to drive around, just like Mario's doing right now. And there appears to be a second similar island just behind it. And not surprisingly, there seem to be similar islands on the opposite side too. Finally, there's this scene of Koopa Troopa being clobbered in front of a cinnamon twist. But this is the only scene we can't really directly connect to any other, except for one little thing. The railings here are green, as opposed to the orange and red ones on the right side of the castle. But if you keep playing the clip, we can see green railings on the opposite side, meaning that cinnamon twist scene likely takes place somewhere over there. And with that, let's move on to the fourth and final of the newly announced battle arenas, being the space station stage based on Mario Kart 8's Rainbow Road. And we don't just base that on looks, but also the fact that we can see the same TV ads for REXA, or the Rainbow Exploration Agency, in the background. At any rate, the establishing shot provides a fantastic overview of the stage, with it being split up into two main sections: the space station itself and the planet's surface, which, at least in this one section, consists of a giant crater surrounded by a few smaller ones. And that main crater looks as if it'll give you some serious hang time, which is fitting given the outer space setting. And speaking of which, regardless of which section you're in, it appears that the entire stage takes place in anti-gravity, which should make things a little bit more interesting. Now, it appears that there are 3 paths to the crater section from the space station, being the one in the middle and another to either side. But both of those side routes actually lead to raised ramps that we can just barely see here, which will give you some airtime before you enter the crater area. And speaking of the crater section, it looks like there's nothing ahead of it beyond a rock wall. However, based on this scene, there does appear to be an entire section off to the side, which we're guessing is mirrored on the opposite side as well, as we can just barely see a path here. Now, unfortunately, we can't make out too much of what's going on over there, although we can see that will seemingly lead to a ramp on the opposite side of this wall in order to reach the ion boxes here, bringing you back to the crater. And that's about it, except for a few toads we can see watching from the sidelines, including on this raised interior walkway. And with that, we're done covering everything we could dig up from the latest Mario Kart 8 Deluxe trailer. But as always, let us know if we missed anything by posting in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more analysis videos and everything else Nintendo too.